which I think is aimed right at the teachers. There are a few teachers here tonight. So education is the key to success in life, and teachers make a lasting impact in the lives of their students. So Jackie Stroud has agreed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I should say that the quote was from Solomon Ortiz, and I didn't have time to research it, so I can't tell you anything about it. It's a good quote, that's why I chose it. So I'm ready for a motion to adopt the agenda. Second? We have a motion and a second for adopting the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Ready to vote? So all in favor? All opposed? Okay, Dr. Anderson is walking towards the microphone.
Normally, we are acknowledging our Senior of the Month, and we will be doing that next month. Our Senior of the Month is a cheerleader, and during the cheerleading activities this evening, she had a situation which delays her from coming to this evening. So with that, in fact, even with her little injury, she said, I gotta go to the board meeting. We told her, relax, you'll be okay. And then we will have 2 Seniors of the Month as a result at the next board meeting. However, interestingly, we do have a Topeka West student that is sitting in the audience that's in her first year at Washburn who just led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And so Jackie, stand please. And I wasn't thinking of doing this, and then Dr. Morrison said, are you going to say something about Ms. Strout? So Ms. Strout is a Topeka West graduate, and this evening as we prepare to read our proclamation for our principals, for a celebration of our principals, Ms. Strout, can you come forward for just a moment? She had no idea I was going to call her. Ms. Strout, can you share what your major is going to be and what caused you to want to go into that major? So today you are the college freshman of the month. You do have a time limit. She said, do I have a time limit? You do.
All right, I go to Washburn University currently, and my major is in mathematics education. Currently what caused me to be a teacher is I had failed school classes time upon time from elementary to middle school, all up until my sophomore year when I met a new teacher from who started working at Topeka West named Andrew Lake. And my dad forced me to go into tutoring with him because my grades were so low, and me and him worked together, and I started to click with math. He became one of the bigger role models in my life, and somebody I really looked up to. I never saw math in the same way. I never saw education in the same way. It became important to me. Everything became important to me at that point. Education was something worth my time. I succeeded in my grades. I started getting straight A's, sometimes a B. Even now and then, I got better in what I was doing with ROTC. I joined speech, forensics, debate, and I graduated with straight A's.
Woo!
Might as well. I owe my life. He ain't here, but I owe my life to that guy.
Oh, that's right.
I had the distinct pleasure last year when I was at a Topeka West event and sat next to her over dinner, and I was so taken with her. So you could imagine my delight seeing her in the audience saying, did you graduate? What are you doing here? And so I told her that her mathematics education will be put into good use, and Dr. New is actually here this evening. She's not in the room yet, but she already has her interview and job already waiting for her 4 years from now. So I'll be giving her a letter either this evening or emailing it to her, so she has her interview already and her job lined up for math. So congratulations, Ms. Strout, on your first interview and job 4 years from now. All right, with that, we're going to go right on into our proclamation. This evening and tonight, we'll be getting out our email to all of our principals, and so we have several principals in the audience who I will ask to stand at this time. All Topeka Public School principals, let's give them a round of applause. They came this evening as we read this proclamation, and Ms. Strout, will you do the honors of us for us to read the proclamation for our principals? These are the people that hired the Andrew that you just spoke about. So our proclamation, Ms. Strout, come on back up. You speak so well. It's great public speaking practice. So the proclamation, anytime we're celebrating for the month, we have our proclamation. So you can go ahead and read as we stand and acknowledge our administrators.
Whereas principals make public schools great, and whereas principals work to often in the students' minds to keep ideas, knowledge, and dreams, and whereas principals empower teachers to help shape the minds of the youth, and whereas principals continue to influence us long after school days are only memories, whereas National Principals Month will be celebrated October 2017. Now, therefore, it will be resolved that the Board of Education, United School District Number 501, Topeka, Kansas, does proclaim October 2017 as National Principal Month. For those who have taken the time to recognize and acknowledge the impact of principals on our lives, and to be the further resolved that the copy of this proclamation will be included in the minutes of the Board and Education meeting October 5th, 2017. A witness whoever of we, the Board of Education at Topeka, USD 501, do hereby affix the signature of our President and the official seal of the Board of Education this day of October 2017.
And with that, we have our administrators who are the reason why we have the Jackies that go on to college. So we thank you not only for being here this evening, for all you do every day. So over the course of the month, we have a special celebration for our upcoming principals meeting next Thursday for our principals in honor of National Principals Month. And we look forward to all others that are here today and those that will be watching on the video to take time to celebrate and thank not only our administrators, but those that have helped us become who we are. The proclamation should be given to a principal, and we normally take a photo. So board members, if you all don't mind, we will at least take a photo with you with your proclamation. So I don't see our lead principal in the room, so we will ask our tallest principal to come forward. Miss Morrissey, come on up, and can you follow her right on in line? All of our principals, can we come on up for our photo? All right, principals, come on up for your photo.
Next on the agenda is and we have none. take a motion on disposition of business by consent. Mr. Woods.
If I may, Mr. President, before we make the motion, I'd like to request that we separate item 9.1 personnel report during that agenda item. So, and to disclose, as I always do, since my spouse's name is not a conflict of interest, we make decisions by the party. I still like doing it right now.
Very good.
So if that's okay with the board and the eventual maker of the motion.
Mr. President. Mr. President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented, with the exception of item 9.1, which will be removed and voted on later, and authorize the board president or the superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Mr. Williams, second. Any discussion? Ready to vote?
All votes submitted. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Woods.
That's why he does it. Mr. President, I move that the board approve item 9.1 on the consent calendar.
Second. Any discussion? Ms. Johnson. Ready to vote?
All votes submitted. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. We are moving on the agenda. Mr. Woods, come back in. And we're ready for superintendent update.
The first item is the accreditation process. Ms. Wallace will begin her report. The new accreditation process, remember, is the Kansas CAN initiative, and Mrs. Wallace is guiding us through this process. So she has just a few slides to show where we are now and where we are headed in the area of accreditation.
In 2015, KSDE adopted a new mission, vision, and outcomes. And the vision is that Kansas leads the world in success of each student, and their outcomes, they identified 5 outcomes. These all come into play through the accreditation process. So these are a huge component of what we're looking at moving forward. So I wanted to be sure and share those. Kindergarten readiness. This last year we had 2 schools pilot what will be the kindergarten readiness survey that KSDE rolls out next fall. Graduation rates, post-secondary attendance and completion, the individual plans of study that we've been working on through college and career, and then social emotional factors, which we'll have to work on coming up with a local measure for. So what's different about the accreditation system? It's a systems approach. No longer will schools be accredited on an individual basis, but will be accredited as a district based on our systems. We participated in a system-wide needs assessment last year, looking at the rubrics, and then also with Dr. Joftis, who came in and did some needs assessment pieces with us. Goal setting, we've set goals through our strategic action plan last year, and then each of the schools set school improvement goals based on those through the Kansas STAR system for school improvement. So we've reached the phase where, in the process, where we are working and focusing on implementation, and then reflection and refining as we move through the process. So what is it that KSDE is looking at, and what we used as our needs assessment were the 5 R's, or 4 rubrics and results. So we looked at relationships, relevance, responsive culture, rigor, and then results is not a rubric, but it is how KSDE will be reporting on those 5 outcomes and our successes. So part of our needs assessment was to go through these rubrics. Each school, their building leadership team went through the rubrics, assessed where they felt they were on each of them. We did it as a district team, as far as teaching and learning, special education, ELL, all of those different departments participated. And then we looked at the results and identified, based on KSDE's recommendation, that we come up with 2 areas to focus on. So over this year and the following 3 years, we will be focusing on relationships and relevance. So relationships with staff, students, families, community, and then relevance, really focusing on our curriculum, instruction, student engagement, and then our technology initiatives. Now, while those are a focus, it does not mean that we're not continuing to maintain and work towards the other 2 with responsive culture and rigor. In our strategic plan, you will find all 4 of these areas covered as a focus. So where are we in the process? We are entering, this is year 1. Last year was 0 year, but it is a 5-year accreditation cycle. And the state has been working towards this for the last 2 or 3 years. I've sat on several state committees that have been working on and identifying before this was even approved by the State Board of Education. So their goal was not to have all schools enter at the same year. So we are actually entering this year, which is year 1, but we are entering as a year 2 school. We have completed establishing our district and building leadership teams, site councils. All schools have used and feel comfortable with the rubrics and assess their school using those rubrics. They all are familiar with and know the definition of college and career readiness, along with the acronym of ACTE, which is academic preparedness, cognitive preparedness, technology skills, and employability. We piloted the kindergarten readiness survey in 2 schools, and those kindergarten teachers gave input and feedback to KSDE. We've completed the needs assessment. We've established goals and action plans. All the schools have created goals and action plans based on the strategic plan and on our 2 areas of focus in relationships and relevance. And we are moving forward in our implementation of CI3T as a tiered system of supports, which is a foundational component for accreditation. And then we are in progress in establishing our outside visitation team. And on the outside visitation team starts in year 2, so we anticipate that that team will make its initial visit with us as a district in the spring. Questions?
Anybody have any questions? Mrs. Kerr?
We did we piloted the kindergarten readiness group sort of measurement tool that you're going to be using. Did we find that helpful to us? Did we use it? Did we use the outcomes as we got it from them after doing it?
Well, the schools found it very helpful in even measuring where kindergartners were coming in and setting our goals for where they progress. The particular survey that we piloted, the ASQ3, we feel really comfortable with. We've been getting it at Sheldon and Pine Ridge in our preschools for 2 or 3 years. So this will just push it up into kindergarten.
Right, I was curious if whether we were able to actually go ahead and use it
And
to our
we've
advantage.
been using the data from preschool,
Right.
our preschool students who are entering kindergarten. So this was an opportunity just to capture more kids at those
Sure.
2 schools that piloted it.
Great. Well, it's also will be a measure for us as we look at how well the preschool program is impacting
Yes.
the children going into kindergarten. Because I think we've been talking about already today, about having some severe issues with incoming kindergartners who have had no opportunities for any kind of learning. And
Well, and it's measuring where they're coming to us in kindergarten, so it should be able to help us with curriculum decisions and goals for kindergarten moving forward. Because it's just a measure of where they're entering kindergarten.
right, it doesn't, but it gives you quite a bit of information,
Absolutely.
so that's great, thank you.
Mr. Woods?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much, first of all, for the great presentation, incredibly succinct and a ton of information packed into like 6 slides.
I think you also have a PDF that's in the board agenda of the 5 rubrics.
Curious on the definition of college and career readiness. Can you tell me a little bit more about what we did and how we familiarized folks with that? I guess, and really what I'm asking is where do we think that's going to go?
Well,
Do we have any immediate plans for how we build off?
The state definition of college and career readiness goes back to that acronym of ACTE, which means that when kids leave high school, we have academically prepared them, cognitively prepared them, that they have the technology skills and employability certifications to join either the workforce, go to college, or a post-secondary education of some sort.
I guess what I'm really asking, I'm wondering, and I probably already, I guess I should admit, I probably know the answer to this question. We're linking this to everything that we're doing in terms of industry recognized credentials and all of the college and career prep that we're doing and all of the new things.
And a big piece of that falls under results, and that will be reported, the number of industry credentials that students leave with, as well as our average ACT scores, how many kids are moving into college and or a post-secondary opportunity or a technical employable job when they leave high school. All of that is part of, and that graduation rate, how the state is going to report our successes.
Okay, so I really only asked that question just like everybody else up here. That's one that is incredibly interesting to me. It's important, and anytime it comes up, I always want to jump and see if maybe there is some indication in what you're saying that we may take some extra measures in one way or another if we're going to push for some other certification somewhere, or we're building more pathways where we can foresee something coming on 3 or 4 years down the road.
We absolutely are. I know that, when we open TCAP next year, we're looking at other pathways. We have, when you see course proposals in the next month or 2, you're going to see some introductory computer science classes for a new college career pathway in computer science, and some AP classes related to that path. So we are.
Kind of what we were wondering. Thank you for, we're trying to tiptoe around it, but we wanted you to spill the beans. Like.
So there's one bean I spilled.
The only other question I have, I guess, it just would be to, first of all, thank you for recognizing, and I guess the state has done this themselves, but I think we have always been in a position where we understand the critical role of early childhood education and exposing our students to what it's going to take to learn and to show up ready to learn, to try to balance out that disparity in terms of readiness. that we see, in 5-year-olds. So I'm excited that we're still pushing very, hard on that, and I know that because the R that we are working on, the 2 R's we're working on initially, that one doesn't fall under it as it's labeled. I know we're still doing it, we're still pushing forward. We've got a brand new facility, thanks to our patrons and the bond initiative. So I'm still excited.
What I would tell you is that early childhood and kindergarten readiness is one of the foundational measures that KSDE has as part of the accreditation process. So while it's not part of relationships and relevance, it is definitely part of our work towards accreditation with those outcomes.
I know we weren't backing off of it anyway, so, but good to see, good to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Are there other questions before we go on to the next several presentations?
Any other questions? No, ma'am.
So as that continues to stay up for just a moment, Dr. New is coming forward for her equity report. As you know, Dr. New is not only Director of Personnel, but also of Equity. If you look under responsive culture, it's beautiful how our strategic plan aligns very closely with this entire accreditation piece. Early childhood, as you were just talking about, is under responsive culture. District climate, as well as when you look down into nutrition and wellness and leadership, all of those are areas for climate and equity as one of our 5 goals. And so Dr. New this evening will give you an update on where we are in that regard, and she will be returning later as a mid-year report, as well as our Equity Summit kicks off and our Courageous Conversations begin. Dr. New.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson, and good evening, members of the board. Our Equity Council is off to a great start this year. We've had 3 meetings beginning in July, August, and September, and we are really forming a clear vision for what we hope to do for our district, for our parents in the district, for our students, as well as for the Topeka community. We typically meet the 4th Thursday of every month. And this year, Dr. Anderson invited our new principals as well as our past principals to all come and be a part of the Equity Council. And I think that is why we had such a great turnout at our last meeting. We had 38 individuals on the roster, and the vast majority of them were here in the boardroom, and that is the largest attendance that we have had in all the years that we have had the Equity Council. And so as we are looking at the scope of our work for this year, we're seeing that we have many stakeholders who want to be involved in what we are doing within the Topeka community, and more specifically in Topeka Public Schools. So we are continuing to use the tools that we've been trained in through the Courageous Conversations, through Pacific Education Group. And Ms. Johnson and I will be attending that summit again this year, next week. And the focus is on She Speaks Her Truth. And so we're realizing that equity and diversity means not only embracing individuals on the basis of their race, but also gender, as well as many other areas. And so we are also partnering with the Midwest and Plains Equity Assistance Center, and their goal is to increase staff critical awareness to critical consciousness and understanding culturally responsive, asset-based school practices. And just to make that in simple English, what they focus on at no cost to us, just the agreement to come in and share with professional development and information, that as individuals in America, our students are affected by the way that the adults that teach them and that make decisions for them, the way that they think. And so if we can help the adults become conscious critically of racial issues and understand the differences in culture and base our practices on that, then we should see some improvements in the classroom, but definitely in the relationships between the young people and the adults who work with them. This year, we're very excited about the equity summits that are going to be a part of our monthly meetings. These will be facilitated through our district's Equity Council. We also are looking to develop a Student Equity Council, which is part of the district's long-range goal. And this last meeting, we looked, Dr. Anderson had presented some topics that we thought would allow our participants to engage in some culturally conscious conversations. And so the three that emerged as the top ones for discussion among these district employees as well as community members were poverty. And so if you consider we had at least 30 people at the meeting, if not more, 16 individuals said that this was their number one. And then the number two, there was a three-way tie with 10 votes each. Immigration, which we know is a current issue, access to education, and racism. And then the third category that received the highest number of votes, 7 votes, was civil rights. So these are the things that we'll be talking about at each one of our Equity Council meetings. We're excited that we're going to build that communication between our stakeholders, and also we're inviting parent engagement so that they will be able to talk about these issues with their young people as we move forward in our work. Do you have any questions?
Do you have times and places and?
Yes. I have a brochure that I brought that I will make sure you receive for each one of you, and it outlines our meeting dates as well as the times we meet here in the boardroom, 5:30 to 6:30. And believe it or not, within that 1 hour, we are able to cover our full agenda and leave with plans for our next meeting.
Is there something like courageous conversations, or where do you get the agenda that you're going to speak on all of these very timely topics?
If I can add to that, and certainly the website is also updated. So there's an equity link now on our website, and an equity link has always been available, but the agendas will be available with the Courageous Conversations. Mrs. Kruger and the communications team has done a good job of saying join the conversation and sending that out through social media. And so you will see our Courageous Conversations now that Dr. New, as of really today, kind of has, and yesterday, listed all the topics. And they may have had 15 or 20 topics to pick from, but those ones that rose up will be the Courageous Conversations that are the focus of the work. College and career readiness being really the foundation from which we look at our work over the course of the year will continue to be also a focus in which some data will be brought back to you and shared with you over the course of the year. So this just initial piece really is to give you the introductory piece of here's the structure for this year. And as of to date, moving forward, those will be the topics, and then college and career readiness data and those foundational pieces will be information that we just add on different agendas just to bring that piece back so you have an awareness. ACT, disaggregate breakdowns of college enrollment, graduate follow-up. We'll be bringing it back to you through the lens of equity and having that as a piece to talk about. So we encourage you to come to the next meeting as we kick off our Equity Summit pieces. There will be a student panel at that meeting, a diverse group of students who will be talking about a variety of issues focused on the topics that she just mentioned and beyond, depending on where they choose to take that conversation.
Dr. Morrison, I would just add there's a standing item on the agenda, and it is entitled Engaging in Equity. And so Dr. Anderson envisioned that also as a place where individuals can come and share current events that are happening in the city of Topeka.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. New. I know it's timely topic.
Thank you so much, Dr. New. And with that, we have one more presentation, which is Mr. Kip, and I'm not sure that he has slides for this evening. However, he has provided you with enrollment data overall. We are still enrolling adults. As you know, our virtual school kicked off this year and the last few weeks in which the alternative school opened, the virtual school also opened. So we are enrolling adults in that space. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kipp, who is doing two things. He'll be on the agenda again at the next board meeting, focusing on graduation rates and some data overall, and also we'll continue to keep you updated as our adults begin to enroll. Mr. Kipp, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening. Yeah, I just want to give a quick, brief update on the current enrollment. We are down approximately 250 kids from last year, and we believe it's attributable to two things. One, like Dr. Anderson mentioned, the adult learners. We stopped our contract with New Directions, Credit Recovery Center, and so starting to build our own system here is taking a little time. Now, the current model that the legislature uses to fund those things, basically, you don't have a count date anymore. You can recoup that money throughout the year, all the way till June. So throughout this year, we'll try to get more kids enrolled. The more credits they earn, the more reimbursement we get. So
And if we can add to that, those are our adult learners under our Parent Engagement Center. Each school can now actually provide adult learning services for any adult in Topeka that does not have a high school diploma. And so we anticipate over the course of this year that we will be enrolling those young people. Now, keep in mind, Avondale West did not open up when all the other schools opened up. So enrollment is just actually starting in the most recent weeks. Therefore, you will see an uptick in enrollment overall in that area. So that's one piece. And then the second area, Mr. Kipp will also speak to.
the second area was around kindergarten. We're down about 100 kindergarten kids from last year. And so we're exploring some different, kindergarten is one of the most difficult things to project because of birth rates. Throughout the state, they're pretty stable. Kindergarten does hop up and down year to year, but that combination of a lower kindergarten and a lower initial enrollment of adult learners can account for the drop.
One of the things we also did in terms of the low kindergarten enrollment and looking at birth rates was to look at the surrounding areas in regards to kindergarten enrollment, and what we saw, because we do collect the free lunch, if I say this properly, free lunch rates for our private schools and our surrounding schools, and what we saw was also a drop in enrollment in places and or a stabilizing. Very few places actually increased in enrollment in the area of kindergarten. So we expect that perhaps this is a year in which we just have fewer kindergarten children entering into our schools.
And coming back to the adult learners, well, in addition, the industry credentials, we'll get an opportunity throughout the year to get reimbursement from those. To every student that earns an industry credential, we get reimbursed by the state as well. So that will kind of offset some of that drop as we move forward.
The industry credential reminder, you had about 98 industry credentials, previously, and our goal is to double that. And so we are working diligently to look at our CTE new pathways, but also just partnering with Washburn Tech for a college prep academy. Highland Park and some other high schools are interested in partnering and across the board in terms of having students gain industry credentials. The other piece, the culinary arts students are being approached with running Canva as part of their project-based experience this year. So we anticipate that the industry credentials will increase substantially. Our goal is to double that. I don't know if we will, but that is the goal. But we certainly know that they will increase beyond where we are, which will also bring additional revenue in that regard as it relates to enrollment. Are there questions for Mr. Kipp regarding enrollment? And Mr. Kipp, any other big pieces you want to highlight as well?
I just wanted to talk about ACT, but if you have any enrollment questions, I'd be happy to field those.
And can you share the highlights on enrollment real briefly on just the flow and the even distribution, and then jump into ACT if they don't have any questions?
Sure. I thought, this year having the online enrollment saved a lot of lines and headaches for parents having to wait, and having that process in place. It was our second year of online enrollment, and I thought each year, you know, we get better and better at it. So I feel like that and the data flow went real smooth. Overall, I think the feedback from the schools was that it was a lot more efficient this year.
Dr. Mickelson?
Do you know the percentage of parents that enroll their students online versus last year? Has it increased, I assume?
Oh, yeah. I was trying to guesstimate the actual number, but I would say, I think we had close to 10,000, somewhere in there. It was significantly higher than it was the previous year.
I assume that trend will continue to grow. But I was at the academic calendar committee Tuesday night, Wednesday, yes. And there were two elementary principals, and I heard them talking and how they would love to have a enrollment center so that each school didn't have to have it. It was more geographic, centralized, or maybe not one central place, but multiple ones around the community rather than maybe something.
Sure.
I don't know if it's a good idea or bad idea, but I just heard two.
And I know some surrounding districts do that model. We have to look at the pros and cons because some of our patients,
Transportation, I get it.
transportation.
We don't want to inhibit that, but yeah.
But yeah, that's a good idea. Okay.
Erin, I think one thing that'd be helpful to see would be a multi-year analysis to chart some of these trends. And I wonder if you could, but you probably already have that.
I have
Right there,
stacks of stuff.
5 or 10 year analysis, just so we can look at school by school. And I'm just kind of curious, if there's any other trends we can spot. Looks like across all grade levels, our projections were higher than what we ended up with. So even though it sounds like the kindergarten drop was big, it would just also be interesting to see if we see anything in particular happening in neighborhoods or communities.
Sure. I'll make a note of that and follow back up.
Thank you. The next enrollment item that Mr. Kipp was going to conclude on was our ACT enrollment. We do want to mention one item with our enrollment projections as well. There are a couple of places in which students, once we reach the cap of how many students could be taken at a particular school, they went to another school. So perhaps the enrollment for that school would have been higher. Williams is one of those schools. And some students were enrolled in another place because that enrollment was full at kindergarten, actually, at that particular school. So their kindergarten enrollment is lower than what it appears, but they actually are at another school.
Yeah, I was curious. And that actually answers one of my questions. I was looking at their enrollment specifically, and it looks like for kindergarten, it's 23 kids lower, which, that's a classroom.
They did lose a teacher in kindergarten there.
So, but the losing the teacher isn't the reason for the drop. The
They
drop is
lost.
because once they reached the cap, and since we did have a vacancy and we had we had some space in other places, we allowed for those parents to go to the other
Gotcha.
spaces.
Okay.
Magnet school would be the same as well, as we have people that want to go to the magnet schools and they might actually normally go to another particular school. So when we do that 5-year analysis, perhaps we'll figure out a way to kind of share with you those schools that have that issue as well, and as it relates to having, students diverted to some other schools, so you can really track those trends in that regard. Overall, Mr. Kipps, he likes to be at 100%, but being in the 90s and 98s and all of that was as often very spot on in many areas.
And I will add, these projections were done in January 2017, and a lot of things had shifted between January and August. For instance, the opening of Jardine and the movement and the arrangement. I'm happy to report that the Jardine numbers were right about in the ballpark, as we closed Shaner Avenue West and Bishop. That process of reintegrating those kids into one school, I thought went pretty well. And in terms of space, I think we're really sitting pretty good. Okay, this past October 3rd, we had another in-district ACT day. And this was another great opportunity. We had one last February. This one, we have a captive audience of all the kids that are here. So we had a little over 200 kids participate and actually take the ACT. The majority were seniors. We did have a handful of juniors. 66% of them were students of color. 34% were Caucasian, white. There's going to be even more opportunities for these kids coming up. There's another national test day at the end of October. There's one in December, February, April, and another June one if we decide to do June again. So, and again, last night, the FAFSA night went really well. A lot of participants there, 200 people, 70 students completed their FAFSA. So getting the process running with that whole college and career readiness, giving these kids opportunities to take the ACT, and I think it's great.
So if there are any questions, as a reminder, this ACT is special in that this is the one the district paid for. We'll pay for it again in February for these students, and we are one of very few schools that are offering the ACT during the school day, which is something we started last year to close the opportunity gap to take the ACT. So we're excited about the 200 plus students that just took it, and we're looking forward to more students in February and the days in between in which they could pay for it, but we're looking forward to the continued sponsorship. Any more questions for Mr. Kipp before we move on to the next presentation?
Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do, Mr. Kipp. We appreciate you.
So, moving on, we have discussion items on school funding and the legislative agenda.
The legislative agenda, Mrs. Kruger has put an item at your table on the October 10th event, and she will just give a very brief update on legislative agenda in general. Now, keep in mind, this will come back to you as the legislative agenda gets finalized. But as an initial update.
Yep. So on your table, you'll have the State of the Education event, which was emailed to you as well. It's next Tuesday. All the superintendents from Shawnee County will be there presenting just kind of an update of what's happening, a little bit on funding. I think I only heard back from Patrick on attending, so if you'd like to and you would like me to reserve you a spot. Got it. So that's on Tuesday at the Civic Theater, so we'll look forward to that. And then I know you guys are very familiar with this document, the legislative agenda for the 5 main school districts here in Shawnee County. We are anticipating joining together again this year to put together an updated agenda that we will have done by Tuesday. So we are just collecting the updated numbers from each district for the enrollment numbers, but we will all be going forward with the same platform together again. One thing that we're going to add this year is we're going to, on the back of it, add about what school districts did with the additional funding that they received this year, just to kind of highlight that for the legislators so that they understand what the dollars the school districts are getting, what that does to impact the education in Shawnee County.
Have any questions? Thank you, Ms. Kruger. So, I think we are ready for our major maintenance plan.
Mr. President, distinguished members of the board, thank you for allowing me to present tonight. Included in your board package, you got 2 PowerPoint presentations. The first one was on all of the projects that we had done over the past school year. If you have questions on that, then save that for the end of this presentation. I'll allow you to ask me questions on both that as well as the presentation to begin. So with that, what I'm going to do is just review the projects that we would like to bring forward for the 2017-18 school year for major maintenance. And I'll just go through that very quickly and entertain questions at that time. Okay, so starting at Highland Park High School, we're going to replace their clock system with what we call Primex clock system. It's wireless, basically. It's just easier to maintain and it's more reliable. Door replacement in the main building, music building, and gymnasium building. We're going to replace some floor tile in room 104, 134, 135, and the collaboration room that are in pretty bad shape. We're going to also, we have to do an electrical upgrade at several of our high schools because of more or less what was mandated on our building inspection. And that's what that's about. A new dimmer system in the auditorium. And then at Topeka High School, we're going to do some more concrete replacement along the northwest entry to the gym and west sidewalk along Western. Some more roof repair and replacement, probably focusing this time on the slate roof areas. We're going to install a catwalk so that we can actually have access above our auditorium, which is a major safety thing for us, and that is going to be very helpful in us being able to maintain everything above that auditorium. And then small door replacement in the gymnasium. Again, the electrical upgrade that I mentioned earlier. We're going to create a new health clinic in what is now where the security officers or the resource officers are housed. We're going to move them over into the cafeteria area, and then we're going to move the cafeteria manager downstairs. And so all that's going to take place, and we're going to continue to paint the hallways kind of along the lines of what we did when we had Bernie Sanders, and we did in the back hallway to try to just carry that theme on until we eventually get the school painted that way. At Topeka West, we're going to do some more, replace some doors in the gymnasium area. We're going to do a floor replacement in the cafeteria building, asphalt replacement along Circle Drive, north-south parking, and the food service ramp. We're going to replace a rooftop unit that's in bad shape, and then an electrical upgrade that I talked about, as well as a major remodel of the leadership studies building. That is the one when you come into the main building, which we call the A building. If you kind of walk past the auditorium and you hang a left, you can actually come back outside and into that other building right there. That is the building we're talking about. Yes. Chase Middle School, we're going to replace the carpet in the media center, and then the tennis courts is going to need a major repair. At Eisenhower, in two of our rooms, we have an air conditioning unit that comes out underneath the ceiling and creates a lot of noise and distraction in the teaching environment. So we're going to go ahead and replace that to make that a better teachable environment. We're going to replace the lighting in the gymnasium at French Middle School and do some carpet replacement in a couple different rooms, including the band room. And then we're also going to replace a rooftop unit there as well. At Jardine Middle School, and we have the same issue at Eisenhower, we have an underground steam tunnel that creates a lot of issues for us with our hot, cold water supply and return piping. So what we're going to do is we're going to get an engineer involved to kind of research a better solution for us to handle those needs. And then whatever comes out of that, we'll follow through at a later time to do at Jardine and probably at Eisenhower the same way. We're also going to put a new sidewalk ramps along 30th Street that was the city asked us to do in conjunction with the new elementary school construction. And we're also going to tie at the new elementary school, the media center for the middle school and the Jaguar Academy. The middle school office needs the capability to communicate, so we're going to tie that intercom system in so that they can have that communication. Landon, we're also going to do the tennis court replacement similar to Chase, and then we're going to remodel, we call it the computer lab classroom. It's the downstairs basement area that used to be used as an old wood shop, and we're going to convert that into a usable classroom space. Highland Park Central, we're going to do some asphalt replacement around the playground area. We'll most likely wait until the new storm shelters building and follow through at that point. Loman Hill Elementary School, again, some asphalt replacement along the playground area where they have the AstroTurf, or the turf area, and then we're going to expand that turf area as well. McCarter Elementary School, we're going to do some asphalt replacement along the East Delivery Drive and playground. At McClure, we're going to do a roof replacement. It's not an entire roof replacement, but it's going to take care of some issues we had for a while there. And we're going to do ductwork and control system tie-in in the media center and connecting rooms so that we can actually monitor with our building control system off-site when we're having issues in those areas. And then we're going to put some asphalt in around the pre-K area there. At McEachran, we're going to replace the fence that goes along the property on the backside, all the way along the playground, or the backside of the hillside playground area and all that. Meadows, we're going to go ahead and replace the lighting in the gymnasium. And then we are going to do as much of the rooftop replacements that we can do within that budget, and then door replacement on the north dock. This is going to finish out over the last 3 years major renovations that we will have done to all the magnet schools because of the age being 20+ years, and so then we should be in pretty good stead with all of those again. Quincy Elementary School, we're going to do a major floor replacement. We're having a lot of issues with tile popping up, and we're going to make that a better solution. Randolph, we're going to replace some of the restroom stalls in the older bathrooms to just make that a nicer area. Ross Elementary School, we're going to begin painting the school on the inside to try to make that just a nicer look as well. At Scott, some asphalt and concrete replacement in the delivery ramp along the playground. Stout, we're going to do a total window and door replacement similar to what we just did at Whitson. At Whitson, we're going to do a roof replacement along the gym and auditorium. We've had quite a lot of problems with rain getting in along kind of where those long corridors go on a new addition. Hopefully that'll alleviate some problems there. We're also going to paint the north window frames to match the rest of the new windows that we have put in. Williams, we're going to do as much of a total floor replacement similar to what we did at Meadows and Scott the last couple of years. We're going to replace some restroom stalls and then asphalt and concrete replacement along the playground and delivery ramp there as well. Avondale East, we're going to replace lighting in the gymnasium. We have to replace a boiler, and we're going to do some asphalt replacement along the parents' teachers' playground area. Avondale West, have some tuck pointing on the outside. We have some deterioration where we're in jeopardy of some bricks starting to fall if we don't get in and get that corrected. And then the camera door access system we'll go ahead and put in there as well. At Burnett, we'll finish the siding, the little piece that's left, so that everything matches. Hope Street, we're going to put in, along their football field area, they have just an old dilapidated structure that we're going to put a new garage and shed area for some storage area for them.
Is that what they currently use it for?
It looks like an old concession stand, and I don't even think that they keep anything in there because there's critters that can get in there and everything else, so it's just not a real usable space for them. At Hummer, we need to replace the old chemical liner. Just over the years, there's been a lot of corrosion and what have you because of the nature of being in a pool environment. And then we were going to do last year, but we held off and moved it to this year to start painting the awnings over the locker rooms, maintenance area, concessions, and I'll probably do that over a 2-year period there. And then asphalt replacement starting off in the east parking lot where a lot of that started to deteriorate. Information technology, we're going to replace their boiler room door, and then we're going to do an air conditioning unit replacement for our server room and computer room. Obviously, that's the brains of our operation. We want to make sure that we don't have any Boiler replacement at Lynn, again, just an old boiler needed replaced. And then Lundgren, we got some tuck pointing on the outside and some gutter replacement to do there. Quinton Heights, some concrete replacement along the north drive and the stairs leading up to the TV studio that are in pretty bad shape. At the service center, some more asphalt work there, and then we're going to really beef up our security and our maintenance yard because of issues we've had over the last 3 years. Progressively improve the security there, and I think this will take care of the rest of it and hopefully make it hard if we ever get somebody to break into the service yard. And then Shaner, we are going to handle the kitchen modification that won't fit inside the major bond project. At Sheldon, we're going to do the camera and door access system there now that that's been completed. And that basically is just a summary of all that adds up to a $5 million request. So we will respectfully request that be approved at the appropriate time. But in the meantime, if anyone has any questions on either the work that we had done last summer or last school year or any of these new projects, then I'm here to entertain any questions at this time.
Questions? Dr. Mickelson?
Will you remind me the status of the alleyway on west of Topeka High School's in the parking lot?
Yes.
It's the city's responsibility, right?
The alley itself is, and I'm going to come after them because they told me that this is the year, or starting in 2018, that is on their list to get done. So I'll chase them on that, and then my commitment is to finish on the other side of the alley like what we did with that. If I save enough money in this year's budget, I might come after it then, but if not, then next year, and we should be in good stead.
Okay, thank you.
I happened to be in the grocery store and ran into one of the Topeka West physical education teachers who said, I hear you're going to replace the tennis courts at Topeka West.
What we are going to do right now, this year, is we're going to do whatever repairs are necessary because they obviously have to compete on those courts. And then next year we'll bring that forward to do the same, whatever we end up doing at Landon and Chase. But we will be putting money into that, just not out of major maintenance.
Yeah, because he was concerned about kids being injured because of the unevenness of the courts.
Yes, I saw the pictures, and we're actually presently working on a solution for that right now.
Yes, sir.
I drive by the softball fields and baseball fields just pretty regularly out at the sports park. And the netting that you have to keep people from getting wonked on the head is just flapping in the breeze. Are we taking care of those? It looks really bad when you fly.
What I will do there, I'll have a conversation with Mr. Venke now that you brought that to my attention. We kind of cross over between who takes care of
Whatever, yeah, it's been that way for a
At the same
while.
time, we won't ignore it, so we'll make
Yeah.
sure between the
Yeah,
both
it's-
entities and working with LR that we do whatever we need to do.
Yeah, it's kind of the thing, as a patron who, not in this fall field, but got wonked on the head by a ball, I'm real sensitive to those nettings being in place, and it looks really pretty tacky right now because it's torn and flopping around, so.
Right, so thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Okay,
I'll follow up
great.
on it.
I see no other questions.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for all you do. So we are now at the end of our agenda and ready for board member comments.
Well, let's see, this Sunday I will be facilitating a math class for the ACT prep that Antioch Family Life Center is sponsoring. So I will share whatever limited math knowledge I have to the students that are in attendance. And then the following weekend, we at the Nuffsett Conference, Omaha, Nebraska area. That's it.
So we would like a report on that. I think Dr. Mickelson's going to that as well. So.
I mentioned earlier I'm part of the academic calendar committee, and Ms. Wallace and Ms. Harson both proposed calendars for next 2 years, and we're rapidly progressing along that process, faster than we have in previous years, which is always welcome. But we will have a proposal to bring towards this board in a few weeks, I suppose, but it's coming to a close, we hope. I will be absent. Like Reverend Williams, I'll be attending, enough said, so thank you for allowing me to go to that. And then I will be absent the next meeting. So. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Johnson?
I will be attending the summit in Detroit at the same time you all are at Enough Said. We go to that every year. And looking at the agenda, at least what Ms. Wallace and Dr. Bugles presented, we always had some good things back in the conversations. Thank you for allowing us to have.
Dr. McCarthy?
I had the pleasure of presenting at the last in-service to our school psychologists, asked for some more training on needs of transgender students. And we talked some about how it has surprised me a little bit of how many staff are interested in getting that training and seem to be unaware of our regulations. So it might bear some discussion on our part of how we handle that when we adopt new policies and new regulations that particularly we have reason to believe are going to directly impact students and that teachers should know about if there's maybe a process we need to go through, what kinds of trainings and so forth how we want to address that, to just make sure, because it's distressing to them when they're unaware of particular things that they that pertain to them. So we might talk about that. So that might be a good discussion for policy committee.
Mr. Woods?
Not there. Might as well be. I mainly just want to put a bug in. I'm going to take that as a compliment. I just want to put a bug in everyone's ear about the upcoming KASB conference in December, the first weekend. Hopefully everybody will be attending. Should be definitely interesting. It's in Wichita this year. There will be interesting legislative report that comes out. As you know, a significant portion of what they'll be dealing with is school finance. So certainly we'll need good showing of folks who vote the right way on the legislative agenda. So I'll be there, and no, that's well, they already did that, and I caught them in a moment of weakness at one of their other meetings, and they couldn't fight it off at the moment. But that'll be in July. So one other exciting thing that I'll announce that I don't have anything to do with in the sense that I'm not on the selection committee, but our school district wrote a wonderful grant, and it was awarded and it was made public that the district received it from Westar Energy. It's one of our STEM grants, and Eileen Caspers actually submitted the grant, but our students will be working with the city and the county and other authorities working on developing the riverfront area on designing the lighting. So they'll be putting together some plans on renewable energy powered lighting sources, which is a really awesome thing. So I'm pretty excited about that, and look forward to seeing them be recognized at the annual conferences.
Mr. Kirk?
Just to follow up with something Dr. McCarthy said, I think we had our meeting with NEA Topeka this week, and concerns expressed over the understanding of our MOU that we have in terms of our new approach to dealing with difficult students. And as much as I thought we all understood it, it was clear that that's not somehow, it didn't happen. So we're trying to take care of that, but it is another instance of something that I sat through as we all put it together, and so the other people were sitting with me the other day, and we were talking about this, and we were trying to figure out how did it get so mixed up. So, I mean, there's something happens someplace between the time policies are put together, we think we get the information out of the in-service or something else, and yet somehow it doesn't really it doesn't sink in, or people forget it, or something. So, I mean, it's a process that.
We get new staff every
Yeah,
year.
we have new staff. I mean, that's the other.
And then it's, yeah.
Right, I mean, it's the kind of thing that you think, how do we continue to keep people informed? It's not like we're trying to avoid doing that, we think we're doing that, and yet we find all of these instances where people seem not to know what's going on, or what happened, or why we did whatever. So I really think that we do need it as a whole system to take a look at how we put out new information, and how do we then reinforce it with all the things that we have to tell people. So it's complicated, although you'd think it would be really simple. I don't think it is, or we would have done it already. So it was something we really need to take a look at, and I appreciate you bringing it up. The other thing is, I do know that we have a number of our teachers now who are from Puerto Rico, and we know that their families are all who are back there have been terribly affected. And I don't know what we're doing, or if there's anything as a district that we can do to help these people, help their families. I mean, I can't imagine not being able to even communicate with them much, because there's no electricity, or the cell towers aren't working, or whatever. So I'm sure those in the district are already doing some things, but if there's something we can do to help them with keeping in touch with their families, or meeting the needs of their families when they're so far away. I mean, just flying in and out there, you just can't do that. I mean, you can get sometimes in and out, but it's very difficult and very expensive. So I just think we need to think about that with some of our folks. So that was just my thought for the day.
And I know you all missed me with the last meeting, and I really wasn't in Europe or Hawaii. I went to the big city of Ness City, Kansas, and viewed their elementary, and they have a middle school and high school that are together. It's not a very big district, but they are very focused on project-based learning. And it's the first time I'd seen it in the elementary level. They had a elementary teacher who came in and said how she had gotten her kids excited about perimeters and math she forged a letter from NASA saying that we need to figure out robots for getting to Mars. And so she taught this class that subject matter. Then I got to drive the 70 miles, and I want to tell you that western Kansas is a large expanse of nothing out there. Well, farm out there. Ranch farms and a lot of cows. There's a lot of cows. But anyway, Garden City has a beautiful new high school, 5 years old. They have 2,100 students. They're very proud of that school, and they should be. They have a lot of things going on with that school. One of the things that Dr. Henderson had talked about that we haven't broached yet is a culinary vein. And they have as a matter of fact, they made us lunch, and it was very good. And their teacher talked to us. So that was a very good experience. And they also have a grade school where 70% of the kids are Hispanic, and most of those kids come into kindergarten speaking only English, or only Spanish. And so they have Spanish-speaking teachers, kindergarten, first and second, and then they get them into the English. They don't do a language at all. But they have a lot of teachers that are bilingual. So if they don't like, if they'd rather come to the big city. Anyway, but I didn't approach any of them. So that's my report from Western Kansas, and I was very impressed. I enjoyed that trip, although it was a long way out there. Never know. I think I'm ready for a motion for adjournment. We have a motion and second for adjournment. Any discussion? We're ready to vote. No. We are adjourned. Okay, all in favor? Who would ever be opposed? All opposed?